Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being patient with us. My name is Karen Burns-Retigliano, and I am a very proud member of PIIN, the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. And I'm very proud of the work that we're doing with the PIIN Immigration Task Force in collaboration and in synchrony with CASA San Jose and other allies. Today, we're honored to have the chair of our Immigration Task Force, Kathleen Rueppel, and also Dr. Joan Harvey. And Kathleen is going to be giving us a framework of what PIIN is currently working on. Also one victory that we had, but so many more to go. And so just a little bit about Kathleen. If you saw the flyer, you realize that she's the chair of the Immigration Task Force, and she's going to talk about the current goals we have. And she is a former sheriff's deputy and worked as a detention officer in Bexar County Adult Detention in San Antonio. She's also a German and Russian and she has other additional military background in terms of her work in Germany. And then Dr. Joan Harvey, all of you know her even better than I do, but she's very special for her work as the leader of our immigration task force of the Women's Alliance. And she's going to update all of us, about all the work that's been done with the Jewish Family and Community Services here in Pittsburgh, and also the work that's underway now in the very difficult time of the suspension of asylum settlement. So without further ado, Kathleen.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Just want to give you a brief focus on exactly what the Immigration Task Force is going to do or is attempting to do. And one thing is that we are trying to effect policy change. So we are not duplicating the work that is being done on the streets, for example, by Frontline Dignity or CASA San Jose. Those are the boots on the ground out in the streets. But what we want to do is effect policy change. And we have divided it into three main purposes. The first one is the police cooperation with ICE, and it's on your short handout. We do not want the 287G agreements. And fortunately, our PIIN group has been able to work together with Bethany Hallam, one of our county council people, who drafted legislation anti-287G, anti-ICE cooperation. And after many, many weeks, we learned that this legislation had been sat upon for about a year. The person who was the head of the Public Safety Committee did not like the legislation. And because he was the head of the committee, he just made sure that legislation never left committee. And so as we worked with Bethany, and PIIN would go into the county council and we would stand up and we would give our supposed 3 minutes talks, but we got cut back to 90 seconds every time. Yeah, they made sure that we really couldn't speak.
Let us talk for 3 minutes because Bethany insisted.
Yeah, it was an attempt, but finally they brought it out of committee. Actually, I mean, they had discussed this thing and it was like beating a dead horse over and over and over again until finally finally they voted on it. And we thought it was going to be a real squeaker. But it ended up as an 11-3 vote. So another area that we want to work on is driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants. It used to be in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that undocumented people could have a driver's license so that they could get to work. They are working, they are paying taxes, they are contributing to their communities. So why shouldn't they have a driver's license, especially in areas where there is little or no public transportation? They need to be able to get to work. In 9/11 was what killed it. As soon as we had the attack on 9/11, all immigrants were considered evil, therefore no driver's licenses. And this has just escalated ever since then. And this isn't something new. It's just that the Trump administration has, let's just say they doubled and tripled down on it. Okay. The third area is IDing and unmasking of ICE and other agents. So we demand that all agents be involved, who are involved in any of this, all agents. I don't care whether it's the federal, whether it's ICE, whether it's local police. They need to be unmasked. They need to show proper ID. As was pointed out, I worked for the Bexar County Sheriff's Department in San Antonio. And one of the things that was just drummed into us was your badge and your uniform are not your ID. Anybody can go to a party store and buy this stuff. You can buy badges. You can buy uniforms. You can borrow uniforms from somebody else who is law enforcement. If you're true law enforcement, you are issued an official ID, and you carry that with you at all times. And if anyone, and it doesn't matter who the person is, asks you to show your ID, you show it. You've seen all the police programs on television, and they walk up and they pull out an ID and they show it. And that is exactly what you're supposed to do. Well, what are we seeing now? We're seeing masked individuals. They're running around in these ad hoc outfits that are supposed to pass for a uniform. They're masked and they never show an ID. And they will flat out tell you, I don't need to show an ID. And it's now gotten to the point where they are detaining American citizens. People are carrying their passports with them. Okay, this is the kind of stuff that happened in Nazi Germany and in Soviet Russia or the Soviet Union. You had to carry your ID with you. Papers. You got to show your papers. And that's what's happening right now in the United States. And it's gotten to the point also where these people now are permitted to walk into a church and detain people. So our question is, how are we going to deal with this? How do we deal with it? I was on a webinar the other night for the Gamaliel group. The PIIN is part of the Gamaliel. We're kind of like a subgroup.
Mothership.
Yeah, there you go. They're the mothership. And one of the things that was said there was very, very interesting. The new head of this group is I believe his name is Michael Atty. And one of the things he said was, we have got to stop euphemizing what's going on here. We have to call it what it is. It is blatant fascism. When you can walk around masked up, not identifying yourself, throwing people to the ground, smashing people's cars, and dragging people out when they have not done anything illegal and they've not done anything violent, then you've gotten to the point where it's basically like Nazi Germany was, or again, the Soviet Union, or what is happening in Russia today. I mean, you may not say anything against the government. So that's where we are now. It's where we have this is the arrival point. Now, how do we deal with it? Well, the task force, among many of the other groups that belong to PIIN, whether it's environmental justice, whether it has to do with the county jail. They cleaned up the county jail quite a bit. I mean, they have a long way to go, but it has come a long way. And so all of this working together, we have to work together. If we don't, we're just fragmented. We're all over the place. So all of these groups under PIIN and under CASA San Jose, under Frontline Dignity, all of these groups have got to work together. It's nice to be able to come to the Unitarian Church. I'm from Bidwell Presbyterian Church. The fact that we now are starting to work together as faith groups. And one of the things that we say is, as a faith group, all people are created in the image of the divine. And that means that all people should be treated with nonviolent and compassionate action, all right? Nonviolent, compassionate. And to do otherwise is to bring moral and spiritual harm to ourselves. And if we can just get that point across, we have to remain nonviolent. And that's tough because what they're trying to do is push us into violence. They're trying to make us do something violent. But if you look at the statistics, according to ICE statistics, only 29% of the people who are detained and are in ICE facilities have any sort of criminal record whatsoever. Only 5% of the people who've been arrested have been arrested for a violent crime. So we are spending how many millions of dollars sending all these ICE agents to California, Chicago, Minneapolis, Memphis, all these places. How many millions of dollars are we spending to take 5% of the violent crimes off the street? I mean, that was supposedly what ICE is doing. They're taking all these violent criminals off the street. No, they're not. And our own police departments were quite good at dealing with crime. And so now what they're doing is they're helping ICE to take nonviolent criminals off the street, or nonviolent people off the street, people who are not even criminals. Okay. How many people in here have had a parking ticket or a speeding ticket? Are we deported? Are we thrown in jail? Now, as a former jail guard, I did process some people in who had not paid their parking tickets. They thought they got away with it, and a few months later comes a warrant, and they bring them in for 3 days because they didn't pay their parking tickets. Okay, but yeah, and what are we seeing in the ICE facilities? At the last count that I looked up, in a year and 1 month, there have been 53 deaths in ICE facilities. 53. And it's gone up because we've gotten more. And then just recently, there was a young lady who was, I believe, Haitian, who was found at a bus stop here in Pittsburgh. She was dead. She had been detained by ICE, who knows what happened to her in the ICE facility, but she was released. You know how cold it was there for a while. So there she is, found dead at the bus stop. Now, one of the comments that somebody made was, well, why didn't she call somebody? Why didn't she call her family? With what? With what? She had no money. They took that. She had a passport or a green card. They took that. There have been instances where passports have been confiscated and not given back to people when they're released. So now this is where we are. Has PIIN been able to do anything about this? Well, at least we've got it done in the county council, but we've still got Stowe Township with a 287G agreement. And you have yet to get a hold of one of the council people, because I live in Stowe. I have yet to get a hold of one of those council people who I know was against the 287G agreement, except that that agreement had been put into place before she came into office. So again, this is the work that we have to do. I'm going to have to get down to the council building and somehow or other get a hold of this woman. And I know she's a teacher. So getting a hold of her might be a little difficult, but this is the kind of work that we have to do. We have to be willing to do the tedious legwork and the frustrating legwork, because sometimes to get a hold of these people, to get a one-on-one with them is extremely difficult. The council people often tend either not to look at their emails, or if they look at them and they see it's pinned, they won't want anything to do with us. Okay, I think Karen knows when we walk in with our PIIN shirts on to a council meeting, they cringe. They one of them had,
are very happy with
yeah,
that.
but boy, they, yeah. As one of them said, you people annoy me. And so I have to.
What is the ratio of people who are on council right now, who you annoy and who you like?
I would say there are definitely 3 people who despise seeing us come in there. There are 3 that I know of for sure don't want us in there. Shall we say names? Mr. DeWitt Walton.
Yeah, and then it's the new guy.
Adams, is this Adam or Adams? He is the one who sat on the yeah, he's the one on the safety committee that did not want that legislation even to get out of committee. And I forget the other one. There's another one that's. Katina's kind of on the fence. There's another woman. Oh, Filagi? No, what's her name? Filagi? Yeah, she's the Republican on the group. A lot of these others are 15.
And the first when that initiative first started, which really was only about a month ago, that it was that Bethany proposed the law. The count was incredibly. There were only 5 people for it, so it was a journey to get the others. It was a big deal,
Right?
And but it wasn't just imagine. They were hearing from other citizens too, the ones that weren't in but they were, sending them strident messages, and so that is not an option.
Finally pushed it. You had a question.
Filagi.
Filagi.
2 questions. Are there ICE agents in Pittsburgh?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
And, is there any way to monitor? Second question is, seems to me the only buffer we have against some of these actions is the judiciary. Do we also have an action trying to?
Well, that's what this legislation is going to do. It definitely says that our local police force
And sheriff.
and all the sheriff's deputies and all of our, well, law enforcement, whatever agency it is, no cooperation. Now, the people that are monitoring this are Frontline Dignity, CASA San Jose, and there are probably others, but those two I know of for sure. And they have seen sheriff's deputies and detectives who are sneakily working around with ICE, showing them things on their phones. So they're probably showing them various people. Go ahead and go pick them up.
And this ordinance says that nobody in DHS, in Allegheny County Department of Human Services, can share any information.
Right.
About any citizen.
Right. But now how do we monitor this? And that's the thing. It has to be.
Bring lawsuits. And the
Yeah.
question is, it has to be a judiciary, a judge that says, yes, you have to cease
Right.
and desist. So the question is, are our judges?
Well, I guess we won't know that until we get a couple of lawsuits coming in. But I have a feeling that some of our judiciary are going to uphold whatever legislation has been passed by county council.
As you know, ICE has violated more than 100 court orders.
Right. They don't listen.
And it's also clear that the size Gestapo has been created to do more than just arrest immigrants. We're already talking about surrounding polling places. Now, the problem with asking an ICE agent for IDs, they would like to get punched in the face for doing it. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure. Under what circumstances could a local police officer arrest an ICE agent if they clearly violated?
I know that it has happened, but you have to get the police officer to have the courage to do it. And many of them, unfortunately, it's go along to get along. And that goes to the citizenry as well. Scared. Rightly so. Very scared. So they don't do anything. It's just, let's just go along to get along. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's done anything to me yet. The thing is, not yet.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of
when it's going to happen. We could have ICE agents come bursting through the door right now. And it doesn't matter if there's a court order, as you pointed out, they don't listen to court orders. They do what they want. And because they're masked, how can they be held accountable? And that's the problem. And then when you get people being shot and killed by ICE, then they make these stories up about how violent this person was. She tried to run me over. And yet every single time the video shows that's not what happened. This Haitian woman that was found here in Pittsburgh dead had not been, she hadn't been guilty of anything. The judge threw out the whole case. Oh, the case gets thrown out? Okay, so we take her and we throw her out.
they did it in Minnesota.
And it was extremely cold. It was like minus 20 degrees. And they took a Somalian man, took him out the woods somewhere, dropped him off, no coat, and he froze to death. Okay, this is what they're doing. So we cannot any longer go along to get along. We've got to have the courage to stand up and do something. Now, I've got two mottos. One, especially when we go into county council, we won't shut up and we won't go away. We're going to keep coming at you.
So I just want to comment on the council meetings that PIIN members and other people have attended. There's always a public comment period, and like Kathleen said, I think a couple of meetings I've been to, there have been, let's say, 70 people who have signed up to make public comment. It has been about, maybe 66-4 in favor of this legislation that passed. And I think that probably had an effect. I think the 4 that were opposed, they might have all been part of the same family. Yeah, and they all invoked kind of
Scripture.
this weird religion.
National.
Yeah, about obeying and I don't know, it was kind of strange, but I think that type of public, you know, showing up, probably had a big effect on swaying a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Who was the,
It seemed like it was, or the word was being cast, I don't know if it was true.
It was a family.
It was that it was.
It was a family.
So, people, members of one church. And so it was, and they had different takes, but it was all about being obedience to God who wants this. And the thing that really drew everyone at the end of, the last speaker, he had a little boy come up and the little boy read the statement. But the guy who was the father or the pastor had said, men, don't fall for it. Jesus would not have wanted you to embrace empathy. And it's like, and was like, what? So that was interesting.
And you may have seen on the news that someone's saying the Rogers.
Oh, yeah. Well, and she's a pit leader of the
Yeah.
Criminal Justice Task Force,
Yeah.
Sharon Bonavolia, and you heard her. She
Yeah.
ran for another one, another forum.
She turned around, everybody stand up, you want to sing, let's.
And she just started singing, Mr. Rogers, I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. So everybody stood and everybody's crying. I think that was very
It's
helpful.
very impactful.
At one point, there was a lot of manufactured outrage in the right-wing media that certain immigrants were being given cell phones and a certain amount of money. And it is true that people waiting for their asylum claims to be adjudicated were given a phone so they would know when to show up. And since they were forbidden legally to work, they were given some money to subsist on. And people should understand that that's the situation in which that happens.
exactly. And right here on this religious moral statement on immigration, the part A, we debunk the myths, lies, and misinformation about immigration in the United States. The only problem is if you're watching Fox, you're not watching anything else.
Yeah.
So
Even if,
you can prove to these people beyond a shadow of a doubt that what they're being told is a lie, you don't get through to them. And that's the problem.
These asylum families too, so she'll talk about what
Right.
that they don't get now.
Right. And another aspect of this is the fact that when they send in these ICE surges, where you have thousands of agents running around, whether it was Los Angeles or Chicago, Memphis, there's another Minneapolis, and there's another in Tennessee, and now in Vermont, of all places. It was estimated that in Minneapolis alone, there was a loss of $200 million. 40 million of that was in lost household income. And another 80 million of that was in lost small business income. Now, when you really get down to it, that's the goal of the Trump administration. It is to wreck the economies of so-called blue states or blue cities.
Sections.
It's exactly what they're doing, or what they label as sanctuary cities, which may, through their own councils or boroughs, they may have declared themselves sanctuary cities. Pittsburgh has never, I think, actually legally said that we're a sanctuary city, have they? I don't think so, but we act as one to a degree. Okay, so we're on the list. Several months ago, there was an ICE raid on a restaurant in, what was it, Cranberry. They trashed the place. It's not that they go in and arrest people. Okay, if somebody's committed a crime, you go in and you arrest somebody and you take them out. How many times have our local police departments trashed a place? Do you know of any? I don't. And I'm pretty sure it would make the news if they did, but ICE does it all the time. And right here in our local area, they have done it. Okay, so it's not that it's happening elsewhere. It's happening right here in Pittsburgh. Okay, it's here. So now how do we deal with it?
I know that Monday afternoon, the Pittsburgh Public School District is offering training for any staff that want to, know how they should behave if ICE shows up at the door. So,
I know Frontline Dignity offers training, and they go out and do what do they call it? Where they go out and actually watch what's going on. Rapid response, thank you. Rapid response.
Something in the news about the administration trying to turn the legality of 300,000 Haitian immigrants. Is there anything we can do there?
I think
So that
this is the lady that can speak to it, although, if somebody is lawless and in a power position, it's really difficult to deal with that.
petty tyrants.
Petty tyrants.
Well, they took her status.
Well, that's it. They,
Pressing to do
Yeah.
it quickly.
right.
So,
But we have brought Ukrainians here. And I keep running into them. I keep running into Ukrainians. And he was trying to revoke their status. Like, just kick them out. We don't need, they don't need our help anymore. So,
What about all this detention things that are being built? All around, there's so many. Is there anything we can?
the only thing we can do about these mass detention centers, I think there's one in York County. And unfortunately, I saw a lot of comments. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Lock them up, send them out of here. I didn't see one comment that was saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. They were all for it. So when you get into the central part of Pennsylvania, you're in deep, deep MAGA country.
And do they get paid?
Yeah.
Does their economy get paid?
Well, they think it's going to be good for their economy. Yeah, exactly. If I might go off topic a little bit here, I think I make a prediction. So you all see if this ever happens. I think that they're going to start using people from these ICE detention centers, especially if they get these mega centers, MAGA centers. They're going to start taking these people and putting them back to work on farms. As the farmers have suffered. And as a temporary fix, they've been given money, to cover their losses. But I think eventually some of these immigrants are going to be told, well, you can either go out and work on the farms, and that way you get to stay, or we deport you. Arbeit macht frei. Exactly. So this, I predict this is going to happen. I hope I'm wrong.
Has there been any interaction with the police leadership in this town to?
There is, but we still have to meet with some of these people. We wrote a letter to the mayor. We had a meeting with the mayor. And that hasn't gone very far since then, because we need to meet with the public safety director and the chief of police, who, as far as I've heard, is more on our side. But
I know that in Minneapolis, a lot of off-duty police officers of color were harassed by ICE, right?
Yeah.
But it seems that unless local law enforcement is willing to take action when they see laws being broken, that public is almost helpless.
That's unfortunately true. That's unfortunately true. And there are all too many officers who will readily work with ICE, as we have seen through Frontline Dignity, who have people there at the courthouse watching, and they have seen this. They have recorded it. Okay, but when you go to counsel or when you go to the police, they try to say, oh, well, you can't prove it.
But that doesn't
Prove
happen
it.
here.
Yeah, right, or we don't do that. So we're hoping that the legislation that has just been passed has some teeth to it. But again, we'll find that out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and also that's supposed to include that we would never even recognize an administrative warrant, that it would have to be signed by
Has to be.
judicial.
Has to be a judicial warrant, and that's signed by a judge.
Say culture eats policy for lunch, you know, and that's the problem with the police.
So again, we have to keep working. I hearken back to the condition at the Allegheny County Jail at one time. And people probably thought we can never do anything about it. Well, in comes Sharon Bonavoglio. I've never met a more passionate person in my life. I wish you could have been there the night she went ballistic at the county council, berating them for cutting us back to 90 seconds. I mean, she says what she wants to say. She does not mince words. And that's the way I think we all have to start being.
I think she's here in October.
She did, and
She's amazing. But she said, I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to find out. And she did the research. She did the work. And they managed to get the former warden out of there. There's a new ward and a medical director. How many deaths were there in Allegheny County Jail?
22.
You know, I mean, it's got, when I worked for Bear County, and we were talking Texas here, okay, the good old boys. And it's alive and well in Texas, can I tell you. But I never saw anything like that in the jail when I worked. And I worked all over various positions in different various living units, and in the mental health unit and the sick unit and so on. All over the place. Never saw anything like that. And the whole time I worked there, I had to fill out one use of force report. And that was because a female inmate attacked another inmate. And in order to subdue her, we didn't throw her on the ground. Okay, we just tried to subdue her, but she was so angry and so strong. There were 4 male officers trying to stop her. And I was still in the office at the time because I was the officer in that living unit. And I held up my handcuffs, basically signaling, hey, get the handcuffs on her. So she's not able to thrash around. And they couldn't. So I walked out, and she was a very tall woman. And of course, there were 4 people trying to subdue her. The only thing left was her head. So I jumped up and I grabbed her this way and got her this way, which bent her over. And I was hoping that would keep her, get her to the point where they could get the handcuffs on her. Well, instead of that, she headed us all forward. And there was a big partition and metal and glass, reinforced glass partition. I thought, oh, she's going to ram her head into this and say we did it. And just before we got there, I put my feet up and shoved the whole group back. That was when she lost balance and they finally got the handcuffs on her. That was the only time I ever had to deal with something. And it wasn't that she attacked us. She attacked another woman. And then she apologized afterwards because I said, I have to write a report. I wish you would have just stayed calm because they were trying to get this solved. but she was so angry that she just flipped out. But that's what's going on here, the violence and the economic impact is something that we cannot sustain. You can't sustain it. So we need more people to work on the task force, on to all these other committees. So if anybody feels like they would like to join, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll have a table downstairs, so we will, Sandy and I will, and pick your, and we would be glad, and I want to tell you about the environmental activity that's going to be to talk about that. Anyway, thank you, Kathleen, so much. And one thing I didn't think. But what I neglected to say was something that I only realized last week, but you probably all do know, but that Dr. Joan Harvey was the Dean of Students at the UPitt Medical School. And that is a very passionate and important role. And I'm very proud to know her. And so she's going to share with us all the good work that we've been doing and that might be curtailed, but maybe take it back.
Yeah, I'm going to just make a few points here. But one, a shout out to PIIN because we've been a member of PIIN since we've been here 30 years. And it was very active, especially with Sandy and education. And it's coming back. And it is just so heartening at this time when we really need to follow our mission statement, which is to be involved with community organizations and in order to do our justice work. So PIIN is just doing great things. So I'd encourage you all to get to know it and come to the gala and support us. And the other thing is, and our president is our minister. And the second thing I want to do is just remind you of what this church has done and as a leader in immigration issues and other issues. And so we're all primed to get into this. And can I go forward and back with the slides? Or oh, my computer. Yeah, so I'm gonna just give another perspective, which is a little more personal, but oriented to First Church. See here.
So you got disconnected while it was someone closed your computer, I guess.
Oh well. Oh. Okay. Well, I was.
No, maybe you can open it. Don't give up.
Okay. So I'm just going to give you a short reminder history. Of three phases in the first UU refugee team's history here, that in 2004, 20 years ago, the government decided to offer refugee status to the Somali Bantu population that had been driven from their homes and were living in the refugee camps in Kenya for 5 or 10 years. And 3 American cities said yes, and Pittsburgh was one of them. And the First Church just jumped right up and said, well, we'd like to take a lead in welcoming them and to helping them with their transition. And they, for 2 years, we had a very strong program.
Where we did a number of things with the Somali Bantu population
Here, with providing items for their housing and helping them with their transition to Pittsburgh. And we had in pairs of church members, 2 members per family that would visit their family on a regular basis. And they were, teaching them how to do got a stove and giving them some health literacy,
How many families
taking
did you
them.
help?
So, yeah. Do this. Okay. Make it go. Continue. Sorry, I don't know if I can do this or not. Oh, okay, and yeah. Yeah, so this was just in the Pittsburgh paper, Post Gazette, that he paused this Abraham Mouya pauses while thanking the members of the First Unitarian Church who really took a lead in this settlement there. And this is the family that we worked with, and this is who we've supported based on our Unitarian principles of equality and justice, and individual, each individual is equal. So these pairs of members of this church, went weekly and made a huge difference in the transition. They had a lot of ups and downs, and now 20 years later, there's a whole new set of even more threatening ups and downs for them. So, but this church has a history for. Here's we in our next phase. In the last 5 years, we joined with JFCS, the Jewish Family Community Services, who are long 50 years plus experienced with refugee settlement, and do settlements from people all over the world. And they're very knowledgeable and they're very smart. So we had a program called Welcome Home, where the church would donate all the items that a family would need to settle in their homes, and we would collect them. There's Louise, I see, and take them out to their homes and fix it all up, have a meal ready for them, food and stuff. And we settled, so JFCS settled about 270 refugees on average when we were in the upslope. And this church settled 9 families with 40 refugees from countries as disparate as Burundi, Syria, Venezuela, Congo, Botswana, Nicaragua. So we carried on with that for 2 to 3 years, and this is a map of the countries from that refugees came from. For until January of 2005, when boom, this is the in red, the families that came to be settled. So it just went to 0 in one day. And we were already with a car full of items to settle a new family, and they couldn't take their plane. So that happened very suddenly, and it was horrendous. And then to see what is happening now with these populations that they're so resilient, they've come through so much, they're so adaptive, most of them are naturalized citizens and pay taxes. To have them in this situation is just heartbreaking. And but this church has so needs to go that next step and continue to support the refugees that are here, that have settled, and particularly mindful of now this new safety danger that they're facing is just one huge step that's so challenging. So I wanted to, so we're in a transition, the third phase of trying to figure out now what. And that's why it's so nice to have this segue into the to the policy work. And so we'll continue on the basic needs for the refugees, but it's so important now to move on to the policy work. And so some of the things that we're negotiating and thinking about that is still a need for families that are here are those transitioning issues. English, we're looking into doing support for their learning English, still a big need. It's still items that they need. We get those that are requested. But just I'll just mention this last legal support that they are beginning, that they had their first legal clinic for a community of Haitians who they had settled when, I don't know, 15 years ago or 10 or 15 years ago when the hurricane was down there. So they invited us to come down and just to volunteer for the evening of this clinic. And it was just amazing. It was heartening, but they had, and I think it's through the Dignity, Frontline Dignity, they had a lot of information. They had information that they gave to them. They had that taught them how to use the app for safety app, for if ICE came, what to have on the app, their family situations, their credentials, and how to use that. The safe, what their rights were, and they had cards and all that. But the best thing that they had was the ability to individually meet with either a lawyer, a retired lawyer, a notary if they needed that. They had interpreters, and so I think we had, I don't know, 15 or 20 heads of households come in. Only men, no women came. They're all men. They came in, but they all got an individual sit down with the lawyer, which I thought was just incredible. And they got this, for instance, it's a know your right. It's a whole pamphlet of information. This one's in English, but they had them in their language also. But all they needed to know. But they went over these with them, and they came out with a safety plan. So that's pretty much, yeah, this is it. Yeah, so I just wanted to underscore what this church has done. That's what we're all about, you know, to have, you know, to be a just and these families that have come through so much already, and to figure out how to support them through this. Yeah. So I'm gonna.
Charlotte, is it Frontline? Because you went down to Charlotte, with the patients there. Was that Frontline Dignity that was coordinating with you?
Well, the JFCS coordinated it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was their first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm waiting to hear, you know, what's next, what they're gonna do.
Does the ACLU help you out at all with the legal aspects?
They probably do. I wasn't involved with that part of it. That JFCS collected all the lawyers. Yeah, they have quite a network. They've got quite a network, and but this was their first try at it. So, but it went really well. So I suspect that they're good. That was their population that they had settled. So, but they have temporary status, the Haitians, and as do many other populations. But they're the ones that were going to be. They paused their. They were going to take away their temporary status as of February 3rd or something, and they been delayed. But I've just read recently that they're pushing to get it, paused again. So
Stuart Hastings had a question.
Yes, it's just. Stuart, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to correct or modify an impression that may have been given earlier concerning DeWitt Walton. He did vote against that bill, and what he said was he thought it was fundamentally worthless. And he also said what we should be doing now is drafting a resolution to clearly state wherever ICE violates a person's civil rights, legal rights, we arrest them. Now I've bowdlerized that a little bit. Lock them up. So I just, in case somebody got the impression that he was in favor of ICE, I would like to hold that up as evidence in the other direction.
No, you know what? In principle, you're right to that point. He did say that. But what he said was that he had met with the sheriff's office and with the DA's office. And he said, I just want you all to know in this room, I hope you're not under the impression that ICE, that this will keep ICE out in any way, because it will not, and they want with impunity. So this is useless. And so you're right, he did use that terminology.
I just want to say we should take Representative Councilman Walton up on his offer and support any legislation that would, clear the path to arresting ICE officers who violate people's rights, if that's not all.
One of the arguments was that a resolution or policies were enough. And this is legislation. So they're saying, but he was arguing that legislation wasn't necessary because the heads of departments were already doing what the legislation was asking. Of course, others were saying that's not true. So yes.
If I could make a related point. I'm sure everyone here remembers the Tree of Life massacre that took place a mile from here 2.5 years ago. What everyone here might not know is that that particular congregation was targeted because they worked with HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Assistance Society, if I have that acronym correct. And the killer was incensed by the white replacement conspiracy theory. Okay? So as our own congregation becomes more and more associated with immigrant rights and the struggle for immigrant rights, I'm not suggesting we have armed guards here, but I am suggesting that people be on the lookout for things that don't look quite right, like unattended packages or people who seem to be out of place here, things like that. Just be aware of it. Just, I don't know what else to say at the moment, but I think it's something we need to be aware of.
I wanted to say that Joan is a very unassuming person, and there is no one in our congregation who has shown the kind of leadership over the long term that she has, and the support that she has rallied, and she has brought us along so much, and the respect that all of the women of Women's Alliance, that she has harnessed their power. We know how powerful that can be. And she cleaned her garage to support things. And she's an amazing woman. Thank you.
You did all that computer work.
I'm just a related story from last summer. I helped a young Russian immigrant. He ran out of gas in front of my house. And
Lucky him.
Pardon?
Lucky him.
Yeah, I was told and I had a can and I get it. So I put him in my car, went to get gas, and I was talking to him about how he came here. And I wondered, and I was, concerned if they'd been targeted or anything like that. He was blissfully unaware of anything going on. He said, oh, I am afraid Trump likes Russia. So I didn't know how to respond. I just said, well, I gave him my number. I said, you know, if anything, if you ever get careful, your family needs someone, just call me. I'll make sure I get the right people to you. But I just couldn't believe that response. He's white and Trump likes Russia. But they have we had targeting of non, you know, like people who are like, people from Russia or Ukraine or anything?
South Africa.
Is that?
Yeah.
No, I just read that a lot of those people went back to South Africa.
Oh.
They didn't stay.
Oh,
They didn't. So,
I'd also like to say that Kathleen is a kind of soft-spoken person in general. And it was very interesting to, you know, to learn that you were a former police officer. You know, so that, you know, that's kind of silent strength.
your passion.
I do have an anecdote for that.
But
I was working in one of the living units one night and a guy came in. Obviously, it's probably his first time in jail, so he was scared. And he went back to his bunk, and the living unit was one in which there were no separate rooms or cells. All the bunks were around the perimeter. And the day room was like in the center. So he went back to his bunk and I could hear another inmate talking to him. And he said, "It's okay, you don't need to worry. She's sweet."
yeah,
So I had that reputation, but it is. We're there to protect the people in your custody. You are not the judge, you're not the jury, and you're not the executioner. And a lot of people don't get that. And a lot of people that go into law enforcement are I'm gonna show them, I have a chip on my shoulder and I'm gonna show them. And that's just not how you act.
to the same point, I mean, there made a lot of references, rightfully so, to you know, Germany in the 30s and other things. And there are always these kinds of people around, you know, I'll just say they're bugs, whatever. But, you know, they can be empowered or not empowered. And, you know, it's really very much the same situation, you know, whether it's the brown shirts or the black shirts or everything. Keep them out. It's very dangerous.
Thank you both. This was extraordinary. And thank you.
She reminds me a little bit of TV for teachers, don't smile until Thanksgiving. Though you establish your discipline.
Sure.
And your natural